Hello, Daisy.
Hello, Shira.
How are you, my friend?
Lovely. How about you?
Well, I'm doing really well today. It's a good one. Can't
Good.
complain. I can't complain. Do you realize this is episode 16?
No way. Felt
Yeah,
like we talked about this.
I know. I can't believe we've done this. I mean, I'm still messing up every single time, like something. We don't necessarily document it each time, but I definitely do mess up something. But it just feels so second nature now. Like, oh, it's Wednesday. It's podcast day. Like, I love it.
I love it. It's in the middle of the week. We get to be entertained. We get to entertain a few people with our
Oh,
craziness and
I
hopefully
hope.
educate people as well. So I love
Well,
it.
I'm excited to learn from them too. And today is going to be a doozy. I think this one's going to get a lot of traction. At least I hope it does. So you ready to get started? We'll kick this off. All
Good.
right. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Glass House, where we look at business from the inside and the outside to expose the gaps with what's actually embedded versus what's actually embodied. And I already messed something up, which is so amazing. I love it. I love when I do that. Kick it off right.
Good.
Anyway,
Good
we have all
starting.
the things going. Nobody knows. It's fine. It's nobody. I am Shara Halixer. I am the founder and chief momentum officer of Engage 3P. We're cracking you up now.
Okay, continue.
Oh my God. Do you want to introduce yourself? We've lost Daisy.
Lost me. All
We-
right.
we-
Okay. Tell me more about yourself, Shira.
Okay, well, I'm just going to go on and this is Daisy Watkins, and she is the founder of DW Concepts and LumaPath.ai, and she's going to stop the giggles soon, and then we'll bring her back on. And if you are here today, other than watching Daisy giggle, we thank you. We know that you have lots of options for your time, and you chose us, and we really don't take that lightly. So the giggle fest will stop. And before we go any further, we love your comments. We want to hear your comments. So drop your questions, share your reactions, share your thoughts. We love to make this more of a conversation, not a broadcast. It's unfortunate that we don't have better ways to engage, but start by telling us who you are and where you're from. And that would be a great way to get started. And we'll have lots of conversation as we go along.
Excellent. So I'm going to start it off now, Shira. Every leader rolling out AI right now is being told the same thing. Write the policy, build the training, track the completions, report the adoption metrics, watch the dashboards turn green. And yet, the headlines keep coming. Train credentialed professionals at the most prestigious organizations in the world are skipping verification steps they know they have to take. So, very, very important. Not because they have bad people, because they are careless. Not because they're careless, because something in between the policy on the wall and the behavior in the room is not holding. Again, it's very impactful for what we do. What if the way we have been managing change for the last 30 years has never been designed to catch this? Remember, we got AI now as a factor, right? What
Right.
if AI is not the cause of the problem, but the first tool fast enough? Sorry, but the first tool fast enough, public enough, and consequential enough to make all of us see the same thing. It's happening so fast, like we can't
Right.
even keep up with it.
Well, that's it, right? So when we think about traditional change management, right, for those of us who ever have been in that business, it was very systematic, very what's the word I'm looking for?
Article.
Methodical. Thank you. Oh Lord. And it followed a process, right?
Mhm.
So if it was technology, you have to do this differently, et cetera. AI is changing that all over the place. And that's what we're going to talk about today. I would call this a change embodiment problem, right? Organizations embed AI policies, training modules, verification protocols. Humans embody time pressure, cognitive shortcuts, false confidence in the tool. And I have a diagnostic that we're going to talk about that asks these three questions. I call it the MIA. What is the motivation? Are people motivated to verify or just jump ship? What's the intention? Was the policy designed to be followed under deadline pressure or just to look good in an audit, right? Tick the box, it was done. What is the attention? Does the workflow give humans the cognitive space to catch what AI gets wrong? Or does it absorb every minute AI just saved? So really, there are two things here. And I love to say, and I came up with this, it's my greatest marketing thing that I've ever come up with. When MIA drops, people go MIA, right? They are physically present, they are technically compliant. The verification step is not. Simple.
Well, from the outside, AI is reading everyone, right, of the
Yeah.
failures in real time. So
Yeah.
every court filing, every retracted article, every government report with fabricated citations, AI assistants ingest those signals and they become part of how AI describes not just you, but your organization, anyone, basically. If you have
Mhm.
any digital footprint, you will be found. The internal embedded versus the embodied gap creates that external accountability problem that doesn't go away. So this is where your MIA really comes into place. We talk about this in the early on in our series, like the one I mentioned for Air Canada. They learned the in court. They were in court for 2 years. The tribunal told them they did not. They could not blame the chatbot, and the accountability did not transfer. So we can't ignore the other elephant in the room,
Right.
okay, which is a research from London School of Economics and the Federal Reserve Bank of St. Louis confirms AI is saving professionals an average of 7.5 hours per week. The Informational Technology and Innovation Foundation analyzed the data and found macro productivity has not moved. So AI hasn't really changed much. The phrase the researchers used was on the job leisure. The hours are real, the verification is not happening though.
So on this episode 16 of the Glass House, we're asking one question. And I want everyone to sit with this. Where is the human in the room? Let's talk about it, right?
Let's do that.
Let's talk about it. So, two issues here that I see are really critical, right? You mentioned a couple of instances where AI has failed and the human wasn't there to catch it, right? We're going to talk on our outside in story. We're going to talk about one big one. That's kind of what prompted this conversation. A dear friend and former colleague brought it up to me. And then of course it's kind of like, do you ever have the thing like when you're looking to buy a car and then you think about a car and then you see the car everywhere, right? That's what happened to me in this last week as I was preparing. This story just coming up over and over and over again. And then it led to so many, and I know you found some as well, where companies are saying, we're doing the work. Hi, Heather. We're doing the work. We are putting in the guardrails. We are doing the training. We have the governance, right? We're doing the work. And yet, how is it at these major organizations, publications, huge companies, that things are getting passed? And then the sister to that, what I couldn't ignore when I was doing it is, if AI is giving us all this now, you said they're calling it leisure time, why can't they? Why can't they do it? If it's giving them so much more time that they didn't have to do, right? So we've all done, God knows I have. I start to send a text message, right? And I, quickly want to get out the text or the WhatsApp message, and it auto corrects, and I don't even, I'm like, oh my God, I have to fix it, right? Because it auto corrected something that either makes no sense or is wrong. And so that's just the tiniest entrance point into this conversation. Because if we're putting in the rules, if we're setting it up for success, then how is this happening if the humans are still there? Or are they checking out?
Well, a couple things on that phrase that I can think about is that the phrase doesn't say people are lazy, right?
Mm-mm.
It says that there's time freed up to absorb into something else other than the work. It was
Okay.
supposed to improve.
Okay.
So it's a design problem, not a people problem. We always go back to policies, how they put their workflows. If you give someone 7.5 extra hours, right, and you do not design their workflow to include verification, then verification, and the next step after that, they just don't think for themselves. So when you implement something, make sure they have a path to follow, because AI is so new in their workflow, you know what I mean? And however they implement it, or whatever
Mhm.
use they have it for, the particular task, for that particular job, I think appropriate training then now needs to happen, right? Or the expectations of what this tool can provide you and how it's going to amplify your job. And they know it's going to take out that, it's going to give them some free time, but they didn't plan for the next step of what that free time needs to happen, what happens in that free time. We
I
both
think,
love, yeah,
I,
sorry, go ahead.
no, go ahead. Go ahead. Sorry.
We both love AI, we both use it every day, right? But
Yeah.
I built my practice, AO practice. You built your things with AI
Yeah.
platforms.
Yeah.
This, we're not anti-AI, but we're
No.
pro-human. We really, AI is incredible with what it does, but it does not do, it doesn't do everything to verify itself. So that's where the human jobs needs to happen. That's my take
Yeah, but
on
I'm
it.
going to push back a little bit on this, right? So, according to the research that I did on the studies, the stories that I found, they said they did the training, right? They did the training. They put in the guardrails. They created the policies. They set up the protocols. They had the governance, right, around what AI needed to be in the organization. And we're not even talking about AI messing up, because I'm not here to blame the people, and I'm not here to blame the company, and I'm not here to blame the AI. I'm here to kind of open our minds to kind of what is different now. I have to believe that, when was the beginning of the Industrial Revolution? 150 years ago, right? They talk about how at the beginning of the Industrial Revolution, the amount of time that people had on their hands with the advent of machinery changed drastically, right? If somebody's out there and wants to pull up some statistics, that would be amazing. And I think we're in that same kind of revolution, where I don't have to sit and create a PowerPoint for 4 hours. I don't have to create an Excel spreadsheet for 7 hours. I don't have to, the things that would normally take me all these different, I don't have to do research, right? For hours and hours and hours, because, and even Google, changed that years ago. What I have to question is, if what they're saying, being defensible, they're saying we did all the things you told us to do, right? We created the protocols, we did that. From my viewpoint, when I talk about embodiment versus embedding, when it comes to change, the humans in the room didn't embody the change in that scenario. They didn't say, you know what, I'm going to take this on. If anything, they almost pulled back even further, because in most of these cases, there was one story that was a publication,
Mhm.
AI hallucinated site, uh, I think it's one of yours. I don't know if you have it in front of you, but AI hallucinated. Nope, not that one. It's a different one. AI hallucinated sources, right?
Yes,
And
yes.
and so in that case, any reporter would check their sources, double check their sources. They relied on AI to give them the information. That's where the human's not in the room, and that's the problem. Right?
Yeah.
So what is it that's changing? Are we getting lazier because we just assume AI is going to be right? Because you and I both know it's wrong all the time. All the time. We were working, what was it, Daisy? We were working on something yesterday, and it gave me the most insane garbage I'd ever seen. Oh, it was about my own methodology.
Yeah,
It was my
yeah,
own methodology, and it said, oh, I was writing up something around MIA, and it said some things. I said, where did you get this? Like, you just made something up that
yeah.
sounded good.
So
So
yeah, go ahead.
no, that was it. So we can't rely on it, and we have to be present. We have to show up and be there and do the work to ensure that the work that we're doing with the AI is actually correct. Otherwise, what's the point?
Yep.
Doesn't do us any good.
The human is always responsible for whatever we do. Remember, we are the one giving it the instructions. Remember, we are the one typing. We're the one talking to it. We're the one giving it context to the output that we want it. right? The output that we want. So here is what keeps me honest about this. I use AI every single day. I build client strategies with it. I write content frameworks with it. I run AA audits with it. And I have caught myself more than once trusting the output
Mm-hmm.
that I should have verified. Not because I'm careless, because the tool is that good, right? It feels right, it reads well, and it sounds very authoritative. And that
Mm-hmm.
is exactly when the human has to step in because it sounds so right. It's not this, it sounds right, but it doesn't mean it is right.
Well, I think you hit the nail on the head, right? It is so, it does come across as being so um, in the know.
Mhm.
I've had what I do, second nature, is if I'm doing research and it gives me something, I will say, I want to see the links. And then I click the links to make sure that they go somewhere,
Correct.
they go
And
to the right place. I don't assume that that's correct.
so in the world that I live in, right, for audits and AEO, I make sure that if I research the client and how they're competing again, how it is showing up with their competitors, I always look at the links. And even for my own entity and citations and what I do for my own AEO, I still find that there are certain links that are not related to what
Mhm.
you, but they somehow attach those things for some reason. But you always have to click on those things to actually show that you're actually showing up there. So anyway, there is a lot of things that still AI is not capturing or giving you misinformation that you always have to double check. So just because it says it's been written somewhere, you can copy paste that to your proposal as a quote that it's been you're quoting something, but when they click on that link and it doesn't match, then your credibility's shot. So
Well,
always
and
check.
it always takes one time.
Yeah.
I think what's interesting there, and I think about it just across all industries, right? If we're getting all of this amazing time back, if we're getting basically 20% or 15% of our time, right? And we're able to get another, on average, 7 hours a week because AI is going to do a lot of this work. And I realize, the conversation that we hear a lot is AI is taking the jobs. I just had this conversation with somebody yesterday. He said he has kids in their late teens and early 20s, and he said, my kids are not going to get jobs. And I said, I don't think that's true. And he's a guy in IT. And he even came back and he said, you know what? That isn't true. If they know AI, if they know how to use it, how to do it, not code it, not whatever, but like as long as they know how to do it. So I would have to argue, and I would love to know what people think about this based on the industries that they're in. If we're using it to be more effective, work faster, do all these things, and we're piling up the errors that quite frankly seem to be from my perspective, from the research I did, so much worse than if they weren't using it, if they had to work harder. What's missing here? What is the thing? Is it that people, I don't think that people are all of a sudden getting so lazy. I don't think that's it. It hasn't been around long enough. So, what's the thing that's missing that people are not taking on that different work? And that's where I come back to the change part of it, right?
Mhm.
If I did something this way all along, and now I'm being told I'm going to do it differently, and when I do it differently, I have this step instead of that step. If I don't do the new step, then I'm not doing what I was told to do. The governance didn't work, the training didn't work, it wasn't embodied in my practice and what I do. Is that what's happening? And we don't, we can't answer these questions today. I want to start, understanding what that is and start opening this dialogue because it's not going anywhere. I don't want it to go anywhere. I want AI to be around. I want to get to the heart of what's missing. And I want to understand, how do we ensure that we're successful in these initiatives of AI, because it's A, the future, and B, it's expensive. This is not cheap stuff, right?
No, it's not. It's getting more expensive too. And those that are heavy users and that really embody the use of AI, you
Mhm.
hear me complain about the last couple of weeks. It's getting more expensive. My tokens are going so much faster. I have to
Right.
change to a different model just so I can save some of my credits. And that's becoming a lot more of the conversation. Now, because people are using it so much, the ones that are actually using it to think and do strategies and actually using all the automation now that comes with it, right? The agentic
Mhm.
part of it is bringing up the cost of the tokens. It's because before we were chatting, we would chat, execute. Now there's automation involved in those chats that now, depending on your LLM, it can now read within the folders, read within the files before you have to search them yourself. So the adoption of AI really, and the training and the education on how to adapt with AI, from my perspective,
Mhm.
is the core basic. When you actually have to implement AI, is how are you going, number one, how are you going to adopt it, right, in your organization? That's one of the things that you're going to look, that you go look at. And then how are the people going to adopt it? But each person, again, as a human being, their
Mhm.
comprehension and how they adapt to a change with technology is going to be
Mhm.
very critical. We're back again to dealing with the human. Do we understand every employee? Do we categorize them a certain way of their learning? Some might be more techie, some might comprehend context, right? Because AI is all about putting in your context to get the output. There's another layer of the type of employee you're going to be looking at. And I'm hearing them more and more. They're hiring more people of a certain age, which is
Mhm.
mostly our generation, Gen X, let me put it out there, because they have that strategic mind. They've lived through experiences, which means they can resolve problems. Problem solving is a skill when it comes to also AI, meaning that you give it a question because you're trying to solve a problem for your client. For say me, how
Mhm.
do I, you know what I mean? But if you don't have that skill, or um, the way you think, I mean, strategic thinking, creative thinking, I guess, think is what I call it mostly, then you're also going to fail. So it's not about it's how do we adopt a new technology that's growing so fast that nobody's really seen really a huge success in it. For the big adopters, for the big corporations, what are they
Right.
doing? Paid off 2, 3 times, and they're blaming AI for it. And at the end of the day, I think we've even heard that some of the news, they were hiring some of their old people back because the ones that are bringing in don't have, number one, the context about their job and their company. Then they have to add another layer of training for that with AI.
So
So
I agree with you, and I think that and I'm going to get to the comments for a second. Heather said something really smart, which is human in the loop and human on the hook, which I love that, right? That's a really great tagline. Heather, I think we're stealing that. And Jennifer, I want to read your comment in just a second. I can tell you that having spent 20 plus years in technology change, it was very I'm not going to say it was easy, but it's very cut and dry to say, instead of putting your data into this then into this screen over here and into this one that looked like this and into these fields, we're going to tell you now the field is called this and this is where you put it, right? So it was taking one skill set and just applying it to a different user interface, maybe with a little more data, and we would put in required fields and we would make them put stuff in and we'd give them drop downs. And so it became very rote. This is an entirely different way of looking at technology adoption, and does, to your point, require a lot of strategic thinking, because it isn't putting numbers in boxes. And I will also assert that I think in 2 to 5 years, probably closer to 2 than 5, we won't be putting any numbers or anything in fields anymore. It's all going to be agentic. So the way that we look at data, it'll sit in the background that we don't see, but the way that we enter information into databases is going to be agentic AI. It's not going to be this. So I think that we have to be mindful of, not only do we need to know how to do this part of it, we need to be thinking more. This is a thinker's game. This is not a calculator, right? For all intents and purposes or whatever. Like, that's not what this is. And I think that's maybe where this just kind of came to me. That may be where it is. I'm just going to read Jennifer, if that's okay, Jennifer, because you wrote it. I think a lot of it is company dependent. Oh, good. Thank you. That's bigger. Thank you so much. Startups love AI, but internally, if you don't have a knowledge hub of some sort of help employees understand best practices, how to audit information, company standard where it comes to checking before deploying, and some companies are leading with use AI and use it well. Well, that's scary, right? You're absolutely right. If they're not defining it, if they're not giving that structure, putting that structure into place, and helping people truly understand what it means to have that structure in place, and then find a way to follow up with that. It's not a one and done, Because as we see, as two people who are in it every single day,
Mhm.
there are shifts happening, right? There are, again, I'm going to go to kind of traditional technology. Let's even use an app, right? An app that we use every day. The app updates. First, you take the update, and maybe every 10th time you go, "Ooh, wait, that's a little bit different. I have to do that differently now," right? But I'm still putting numbers or data into fields.
True.
This is not that. This is not that. And so on the one hand, on an individual personal level, we have to have our own I keep saying guardrails. We have to have our own way of making sure that we're doing the right thing, because it's too easy to completely go off the rails. And in a company, there has to be a significant amount of governance and structure first to set it up. And you talked about that early on, Daisy, right? We'll talk a little bit about that. But then how are people using it? What's being done? So the same person with whom I had the conversation yesterday, they're just dipping their toe into AI. They're a Microsoft shop, and they're about 25,000 employees across North America, about 500 in corporate, very dispersed population. They have 75 Claude licenses. They have no governance yet. They bought these 75 licenses and said, use it. They also have Copilot, right? Because they're a Microsoft shop, and people are trying to figure out what to do with it. What was interesting in the conversation is they don't know what they're doing yet. Now, it's the early days, right? And they're watching this and they're figuring out what to do, and they're going to this summer start figuring this out. But I said to him yesterday, what are you going to do with it? And he said, he doesn't know yet. They don't even have use cases yet. So the idea of why are they putting in this technology, if that's not being answered, if to your point, it's, wow, we want the nice shiny ball because everybody else has it, or, boy, we better get AI because everybody else has it. And if we don't have it, we're going to be behind the 8 ball. I don't think that's the answer. I don't think that's a good way of looking at a piece of technology that has so much power.
Yeah. So what's happening is that there's something broken that they thought probably wasn't broken before, or they knew it was broken, didn't know how to solve it, or they tried to solve it, and they thought that there's maybe a component of technology in what's broken, or that puts that, that connects them all, and they assume that because AI is so smart that it will solve that part of that puzzle. You know what I mean? So, well, meaning that they think that, like your client itself, oh, I just want it, right? But they haven't put anything in place. It's just because, again, it's just like, who did we have? Josh. I think it was Josh, like the elevator to the second floor.
Right. Oh my gosh. He said, you're absolutely right. He said, what was the story? That there was a store that put in escalators, and they were all putting in escalators. This is like in the 1800s, I guess. They were all putting in escalators. And so a guy goes to his boss and says, everybody's putting in an escalator. We need an escalator. And the guy turned to him and said, we only have one floor.
That's exactly my point. It's like, you have one floor. Why are you putting in an escalator? Maybe you just need.
Somebody would go to someone and say, I need a budget to put in an escalator. You didn't think for 1 second, but because everybody else had an escalator.
Yeah, it's the same thing. Everybody's talking about Claude. We need to have Claude. Claude is so smart. Claude is agentic. Claude has a co-work. Blah, 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 blah. Then they have it.
Right. I love that. I forgot that one. Thank you for reminding me of that. I love that saying. But I would say I'm going to push back a little bit on the idea that they're fixing something. I don't think they're fixing something. I think it's more the shiny ball. I think that they're saying it's the escalator and everybody has to have it. And they don't know, to his point, they don't know why they need it yet. And they don't know what they're going to do with it. And I had an experience last summer with a client who's also a Microsoft shop. And I guess Microsoft is pushing Copilot and trying to get their clients to use it. And so their head of IT sent out an email. There are about 500 employees globally, and sent out an email saying, we've got Copilot. Everybody needs to use it. And I jumped out of my skin for a second and said, let's talk about this before because he just sent out that email. And so, I very quickly drafted up a whole change plan and I said, let's talk about how we're going to communicate this and how we're going to train on this and what we're going to do about it and da 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 da. Because that's not what it is. Like, why do you want anybody to use it? What are they going to do with it? And most of those people are in accounting, so I don't know what they're going to. But so I think so. Jeff Masters is saying many corporations have gone for years without managing employee written materials. They don't know how to train or govern. I would agree with that. Or they have a ton of stuff on an intranet somewhere that nobody ever looks at, that nobody ever cared about. They spent thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars on materials, on training materials that no one ever looks at, and that's outdated.
That's so true, Sheila. It's only when you have an issue will you ever look at it, right? And everything, or a lot of times, from my experience, people only look at it if there's employee relations issues because they want to know what.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's about benefits, but there's always a benefit, yearly benefit that keeps you updated with that. But other than that,
no. But I can tell you, I've created hundreds of thousands of pages of training material in my career, and nobody's ever looked at it again, ever. And one of the things, no, but seriously, it was one of the things when I was developing my own change embodiment methodology that I was really particular about not going that route, right? Really bucking the system around what does training really do? And we know how we learn today. We know people learn differently. They typically learn by doing, but nobody's going to sit down. There's that, I think it's a kind of urban myth. And I don't know if anyone's heard it, tell me if you've heard this before, but there was this urban myth that, every time we get a piece of software, there's a user agreement. And it's, pages and pages and pages long. And the urban myth was that somewhere early on, it was either Microsoft or Apple or somebody put some line inside one of these user agreements that said, again, urban myth, don't know if it's true. If you are one of the first 5 people to contact us because you've seen this line within our user agreement and you can acknowledge with this code that it's there, then we will pay you $1 million. And this was like buried somewhere deep in this user agreement. And allegedly, not even 5 people using a piece of software that millions of people downloaded ever found it. I will tell you right now, it would never have been me. I've never read a manual. Like you get a new appliance, I got a new air fryer. How do you do it? I don't care. My point is that traditional training doesn't work. We know that. Nobody's reading anything. And I think that we're taking this the wrong way. We started, the point of today was, where are the people in the room? And I'm going to say that extends to, I love Jennifer said those materials always somehow end up in the black hole. 100%, Jennifer. But I would assert that begins long before somebody's got their hands on a piece of technology. This begins at the executive level, at the board level, saying, why are we here? What do we want to do with this technology? And I'll tell you one other very quick story that reminded me of that. About 6 or 7 years ago, I was working with a client that wanted to upgrade their ERP. They are they assemble medical devices. And they were working with a very old ERP system and core tech stack. And 2 different companies were vying for their business. And I was in the meetings for both. And they, hours and hours, and why this is better, why that's better, why this is better, but ad nauseum. And finally, at the end of the second meeting, the CIO said, does anybody have any questions? And I waited respectfully for my partners to finish. And I said, I have a question. Why are we here today? And he slammed his hands down on the table and stood up and said, why are you the first person asking me that question? Nobody asked ever, why are we here? Why are you doing this? Why do you need a new system? Because what you have is working. And the answer was critical. And so I think that's the question we need to be asking when it comes to AI is, why do we need this? Because we know that NVIDIA and Claude and Meta and they're going to tell us why we need it because they want the money. Right? It's going to save you time. It's going to save you people. Well, that's not panning out. if it's, because again, you said at the very beginning, if it's 7 a day a week and people are making more mistakes and those mistakes are more critical, then where's the human in the room?
Yeah, it's all about educating the humans as well, right? It's
Right.
the whole adoption of it. It's not just adopting the technology itself, but all the factors on how you're going to adopt it, what you're going to do to adopt it, what are, how it's, who's it going to affect, what's your game plan in training those people, what workflow is going to change where it's going to add another layer of AI. It's not just one piece that you're adding to it. It becomes then, as agentic AI happens, these people are going to have to do a different um, have a different mentality about workflow systems, right? And like, okay, now it's this part is thinking for me, but then how do I check it so that I can put it to the next part? So where people are starting with, as you said, the agentic part is going to grow, and this is where it's going to end up being. So in order for you to function, and this is what they're looking for in corporations, is that people that can manage those agentic work on the workflows and make those corrections where it's needed. So you're basically an auditor, right? To all these components now that are moving with machine in the human, the machine in the human. So again, the strategic thinking and the creative thinking on human and machines working together is how I see it. It's
Yes.
not, yeah, it's you working together to get the best possible answer and best possible outcome to grow, not just as a individual, as an employee,
Yep.
but also as a company.
Yep.
So there's so much still we have to uncover, and more conversations are talking about humans need to be important, which brings me back nostalgically to our first series of podcasts when we first started this.
Yeah. So for those of you who don't know, we did a little test run last year. Um, what did we call it? I don't remember what we.
AI,
Oh,
why
demystifying
still,
AI.
why humans are still important, basically.
Yeah. You can find it on my YouTube channel.
Yeah,
It was our little kind of test run of what we wanted to do. And I think it's more profound now than it was 9 months ago, right? I think we're finding this more and more. I wanna bring in, are you good? Can we bring in our outside story in now? Because I think this would be a good, I think you're leading this one. Because I think that this is what started it all for me today, right? And I think that it made me start to think, again, I wanna be clear, not making anybody wrong, not making humans wrong, not that's not the point here, right? We're trying to figure out what's going on and why we're seeing this. So, you wanna kick it off?
sure. So every week we bring in a story from from outside the room. This week is one of the most prestigious law firms in the world. And I'm going to read this one to make sure that I
Yeah.
don't get this wrong. So on April 18th, 2026, Sullivan and Cromwell, a 140-year-old firm and more than 1,000 attorneys, sent a letter to Chief Bankruptcy
Mhm.
Martin, Judge Martin Glenn of the Southern District of New York. The letter was an apology. AI hallucinations, say that fast. AI hallucinations have made it into court filing, fabricated case citations, misquoted authorities, non existent legal sources. And here's what makes the story belong to the glass house. Shira.
Okay. So I've worked with this firm for years. It's one of the best firms in the world, right? So I want to just start by saying you've got highly educated people who went to the best schools, who did the best in the best schools, who have joined the best firm, right? So in this apology letter, the firm wrote that they maintained comprehensive policies and training governing the use of all AI tools in their legal work, right? They required 2 training modules, tracked the completions of those. The office manual instructs lawyers not to trust anything. They must verify everything. Okay. All of the infrastructure we talked about, all of the policies, all of the governance, all of the training embedded, documented, tracked. And the verification did not happen, right? So we have to ask the question, and this is not from one firm. This is just the one that came up. Oh, so these are the ones I'm looking at my notes. These are the ones we talked about. In January 23, CNET, which is a 30-year-old technology publication with named editors on every byline, audited their own AI written articles And more than half, 41 of 77 had errors, a 53% correction rate. And on just October of 2025, Deloitte Australia submitted a $290,000 report to the Australian government with fabricated citations, misquoted federal court judgment. A month later, Deloitte Canada did the same thing with a $1.6 million government report. Big Four Q&A infrastructure twice in 2 months, right? This is, again, the best of the best. So we're seeing this happening all over. And that's why I said I don't want to make any particular company or place wrong. But last week alone, the count was over 1,350 cases globally of hallucinations that made their way through beyond that checking point. It's a
Wow.
lot.
That is a lot. So every single one of these organizations has had something embedded: policies, training, editorial reviews, QA processes, office manual language. Some of it was extensive, some of it was world class. Every single one of these organizations have trained, credentialed, smart professionals making the choices.
Right.
And every single one of them produced the same outcome. The verification step did not happen. The accuracy step did not happen. The check didn't happen. This is where now we question. This is not a tech story. This is not a big law firm story. This is not a journalist story. This is a story of how we have been managing change for the last 30 years. It's an even bigger problem.
Yeah.
We tell people, we train people, we track people, we tick the boxes, and we declare victory. And at the end, the change does not hold. It never has. AI is just the first tool, fast enough and publicly the consequential enough to make all these for us to see it now, and where it's broken. So we're back to where we started.
Well, so you just said it, right? That's the thing, right? We want to, and we're making a lot of assumptions here too, right? We don't know, right? I mean, I would assume that if a managing partner of Sullivan and Cromwell submitted something to the court, they're saying the truth, right? That they did the things that they say they're going to do, and I'm not going to question that at this point. However, and we can only assume. We don't know who the lawyers were. We don't know anything. We're just kind of guessing at this. But if AI's promise giving me all of this amazing time back because I don't have to do the things that took so much time, we talked about this in the beginning, then what am I doing? Right? Why is that missing? And again, I would love to know what anybody thinks in this. I mean, I know for me, having my own business, the advent of AI, this is the first time I've had a business where I've had AI. So I think back to when I've had my own business before, and I was doing all of that work that took so many hours and hours and hours and hours. Now that I don't have to do a lot of that stuff that I don't do well, like putting together presentations and all that kind of stuff, right? The stuff that AI can do so easily, I have more time to do other things. And I know I have to be very careful about checking and validating what AI is creating for me. And I think the thing that bothers me most, and this is now coming to me right this moment, it didn't before and right now, where's the editing going on? Where's the checking going on beyond? So if I'm writing an article at a newspaper or a publication, I have an editor, right?
Mm-hmm.
If I had 53% of what I did was wrong, who's editing that? That's not the writer's fault. Yes, it was the writer's fault for using AI and not checking it, step one, right? But where was the editor in that? If I'm the associate in a law firm writing a brief, where's the partner or the senior associate checking that? If I'm a junior person at Deloitte and I create material, where's the senior person? So this isn't just one human. This is exposing something. And I'm wondering if somebody's going to go back and look at other things. Is it that we didn't catch them before? Is AI, maybe the question is different. Is AI now catching things that were happening before and we never caught?
Well, it will
I don't,
only catch things. We did this exercise just recently. Here's how AI will catch its own if you tell it to catch its own,
okay,
like what I call the stress test,
right, right,
right? So that if you it's the humans and the guardrails you put around it and the policies you put around it to function that's gonna test it. But the human still also needs to look at that test and go, okay, did it really capture all of it? So the idea is that AI is a tool. It is not the life, it's not a magic wand, it's not the sprinkled dust for the unicorns.
no,
It is not, it is not, it can build a robot, the robot will work, all right, but the humans need to give the robot the instructions to go, fetch, go do laundry. You know what I mean? Yes, it is scary to be Terminator age, the dystopia of people saying that, oh, people are going to lose their jobs and people are going to be lazy. Only the ones that are smart enough to learn AI are going to make the ones money. Where are all the skilled labor jobs? What's going to happen with those? Or people are just going to build technology or machines for some of those skilled labor positions, right? Yes and no. There's so much that still needs to happen. What we're hearing is coming from, I personally, I'm just going to say this out loud. I'm not saying that it's not, but we talked about this a few times. The news about what's happening in the jobs and in the world, where are they coming from? The tech companies.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Economists are worried about it, but the economists are not saying that, the jobs are failing. There's still job growth somewhere.
right.
Let's use Vegas where I live as an example.
Okay.
The economy's down here because of this is, right?
I'm
Whatever
sorry,
the reasons
you cut
are.
out a little bit. What did you say?
So a lot of people come to Las Vegas, right? So the economy in Las Vegas is down right now for tourism and visits because of whatever's going on in the economy.
Right.
But also a lot of people are leaving Las Vegas because there's not enough jobs. There's a lot of service industry jobs here, but people don't want to do them because it's doing labor, standing up and doing things. But
Right.
pretty soon those are the jobs that should be get paid higher because you're not just sitting, you're actually serving some people. And then people are saying, we've seen a store open up all AI that
Yeah.
failed.
Yeah. They failed
Okay?
miserably.
Again, where's the human in the room there?
Right. It
And
was the one I saw. There have been a couple of those, but the one I saw, the AI ordered stuff or was selling stuff they hadn't ordered or ordered stuff that wasn't right for the store or something. There was a really funny bit on that. I want to just take a look. I don't want to
not a comment here.
go. Yeah, we have so many comments and I love this, right? So everyone's agreeing about what it's exposing and Jeff said, yeah, it's definitely exposing more, which is great. There was something Heather Main said, AI is incredibly powerful. Without structure, it can create more risk than value. That's it, right?
Yes.
We're kind of letting it's like the Wild West of what's happening here without putting the guardrails in, without really understanding what it is that we're going to be doing and how it will benefit us. So if we're not asking the question, why do we need it? I mean, we wouldn't take a medication, right? If we didn't know why we needed it, we wouldn't, like we have to be more introspective, I think, to say, why is it that we need this? What is it going to be? How is it going to benefit me? What am I going to be get? What is the, I always talk about, I spent many, many, many years building the business case for companies to buy software. And I would say, this is where you're going to make your money. This is the hard costs and the soft costs. And this is where the ROI is going to come in. And when I was developing change embodiment, I said, there's something more than return on investment. It's called return on intention, right? We want to ensure throughout that we're getting return on the intention, and that intention can change. The example that I love to give is in 2019, you talk about hospitality. In 2019, every hospitality and airline and whatever all sat down in their organizations and created strategies for 2020 and beyond, right? With the best of intentions. Oh, it's going to be a new decade. It's going to be amazing. Da 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 da. And then, right? Then the world came crashing down, right? And everyone had to pivot. Hospitality had to pivot. Airlines had to pivot. Everybody had to look at the intent of what they were trying to do and look at something differently. So the same is true here. We have to look at the intention of, we have to first ask the question, why do we need it? And then we have to continue to look at that return on our intention as we're going through the process and beyond to say, why did we need this? Are we getting what we want out of it? If not, we need to pivot.
Oh, absolutely. So so let me bring this to the person watching right now. You
Okay.
used AI to draft something this week, right? A proposal, a report, a client email. How much time have you spent verifying the output? Be real,
Okay.
okay? Not did you read it? Did you verify the facts, the citations, the numbers? If the answer is I skimmed it, you are the story we're telling today.
Is this your action item for the week? Are you giving it early?
No, I'm not giving her. This is just a story. And
Oh,
so I am, and so am I. I'm also the story today because I have.
okay.
So at this point, it is universal. So the point is that um, doesn't matter what a lot of people misconceive AI for what it is as the magic wand, but understanding really the usage of it is the core issue.
Yeah.
So what I did with my own audits was because, again, I looked at it, it looks good, the numbers look right. I did my assessment. Based the numbers on two different apps that I use to make sure that the findings are right for my audits. But at the same time, I realized that there was one output that really got stuck with me that, oh my God, it picked up a lot of different things that I didn't know. So you again, the governance doesn't matter. The governance will constantly evolve because it's constantly going to find gaps in your processes or in what you're putting out there. So diligence in
Diligence.
knowing,
That's the
yeah,
word. Diligence.
diligence in really knowing what your product or your service is and that it's coming from real life. You know what I mean? You're building it not because AI said this is what's going to make you $1 million this year. And I think the majority of the population is using it for that reason. Then when it comes up with the answers that it's long, it looks good. Again, it looks good, sounds good, but is it good? Is it achievable? Then the human then realizes, oh, these are steps that I need to do. AI can't do all these steps for me to make $1 million. Oh, I have to sell. Oh, I have to pick up the phone. Oh, I have to do marketing. Then all of a sudden, deflation happens. What do they use it for? I want nice photos. It can make me look like a princess. Or I can be, I can be in a yacht, pretending I'm in a yacht. So then self-delusion happens because if they're not adapting it properly, they're going to use it for something else. So it all depends on an individual, a company, and what the uses are for. It really
Okay.
is all not just educating yourself, but education coming from organization. Sorry, I rambled off on that one.
No, it's okay. I'm going to give my action item because, as
Good.
usual, we've gone this hour so quickly. I can't believe it. I want to give my action item. So, if you are in a company or you are the company of your own company, I would say go to your leadership, right? Pick one of the AI tools that you're using individually or at a company and ask them to show you the workflow when AI gets it wrong. Walk me through the catch, right? How do I know? So part of the governance is, what if it's wrong? Where is that being caught in the workflow so that they know that it's wrong in the future? Like,
That's
it's kind of a backwards audit, right? So if the organization can't show that, and granted, not everybody can do that because maybe you don't have access or whatever, but maybe even ask someone like, what if my AI is wrong? Ask your IT team, what if my AI gives me something wrong? How will I know it's not going to give it to me again?
very good.
What are the guardrails in place? If someone doesn't have an answer for that, you know there's a problem.
Mm-hmm.
And you got to ask it for yourself as well when you're using your own stuff. So that was my action item for the week.
So my action item from the outside is not just your organization. If you have one, if you Google yourself or chat GPT yourself, not
Right.
just chat GPT, ask the question, who is, if you're a company and you are a brand, just say, who is the best or who would you recommend in this city? And then whatever you want to be known for, what you think you should be showing up for. Okay. It could be, a consultant, the biggest law firm in the world, in this zip code, whatever it is, parameters. Try that. Do you show up? Is my question. If you show
Okay.
up, good. There's another layer to that. That will be my next, what to do next week. And then the next part is not just from ChatGPT. If you did show up in ChatGPT, go to Gemini. Are you showing up? The next layer to that is, are you showing up properly? Meaning that
Right.
your name show up, and I give you a little bit blurb. If you read down the bottom, I'm going to tell you right now, there's going to be some hallucinations where they're going to capture something that's depending on the LLM. Ask another LLM if you have one. Just use the free version. By the way, do not use it while on your browser. Use the incognito stuff so that it doesn't remember your browser, because it will remember you. It will be biased. So there's no bias in doing that. So try that, and see what you come up with. And if you see the gaps, you're going to see some gaps in there. And if you don't show up, how are you going to show up is the next question. So that's
I
my.
think it's so important. I think it's critical that we get a handle on this, both individually and in our organizations, and we understand. And again, this is not the sky is falling. This is not woe is me. This is not any of those things. Like I said, it's not about making people wrong. It's not about making companies wrong. It's about being aware, right? And being cognizant of the fact that we are dealing with something we've never dealt with before. We are moving at a pace we've never experienced before. We are learning as we go at a level that I don't think I've ever experienced before. And so I think that we need to know what's expected of us. We need to know how we move through this effectively. And I love, and I'm sorry we couldn't do all of the comments here. So I'm going to say to everyone who's here, and whether you're listening live or you listen to a recording of it, I would love if anyone wants to continue this conversation with us. We'd love to have you as a guest, whether it's this conversation or something else. We really love to bring people on and get their points of view. So we welcome you to reach out to us and say, oh, I should put our little reach out here. Reach out to us and let us know what you want to talk about, whether it's this or something else. And we can definitely powwow and bring you onto one of our episodes. I think that it is critical that we are conscious of this, that we don't go into AI as kind of blithering idiots thinking, wow, this is so fantastic, let's just go. We really need to be present and we need to be in the room because we have a lot to contribute. We have a lot to share. And you said at the very beginning, Daisy, we are the strategists, not the AI. We have the context for what's happening and what we need and where we're going. And it's still about us. That's, for me, that's the critical part of this, right?
It very true. So not just about us. That's to learn it and really embrace it like the way it should be embraced, but also what you're educating others, right? So
Yeah.
about it, you know what I mean? So it's more because what I do for what I have to educate the client on how they need to be seen or how they're going to be seen by AI is a very big part for me to be human, to help them understand, because it's all going to be jargon for them. They're just hearing me. They're just thinking, oh, she's just making things up kind of situation. But they need to understand logic of how a machine thinks, and it's no longer Google where you pay the ads. You really have to have some thought to the process, because it's, again, it calculates things. It's math. So and to write something in kind of think in that way of how AI is going to read you is a strategic part. Tools are going to be there. Tools are going to say you can be found, you can be seen, but the tools can't tell you how can maintain in that maintain to be seen and how you're going to be seen. So two different things.
Yeah, I think that we're embarking on something that's really spectacular, that has incredible opportunity. It's going to bring amazing things. They talk about curing cancer and there was something, and we're not going to get into quantum because it blows my mind and makes me a little bit nauseous. But there was something about, I saw a post or something about a quantum computer did a program. Did you see this? Did you send it to me? Did a
It's in
program
China. Yeah.
in 10 seconds that would have taken the biggest regular computer 10,000 years to do or something. Like, I can't. I can't. It's making me ill. But I think that we have to show up. We have to show up for ourselves. We have to show up for our companies. We have to show up for our community. We have to show up for our universe. We have to show up for each other, right? And this is a really fun, amazing thing. And I think the and is really important. I think the and is what we do all the time. So I'm excited about it, and I want to be really mindful and really careful about how we do this and what the conversation is for us.
I love it. Again, there's so much stuff we can still talk about. Like,
Yeah.
it's humanity, right?
Yes.
And well, we are the ones that have the experience. We are the one that built this machine to begin
Right.
with, and we're continuing to building it with our input. So let's be mindful of it. I practice ethical AI all the time in what I do,
Right.
and that's what makes me sleep at night. To know that I am very careful in what I as my output and what I deliver to my clients. So I hope that companies and whoever you are out there listening, that you put that same practice too. So
Well, we can't wait to hear from everyone who was on, everyone who sees this, and we will see you next week.
thank
Thanks,
you,
Dave.
everyone.
Bye, everyone. Have a great week.
Bye.